Welcome. Today we're going to talk about The Fringe Hours by Jessica Turner. This is a book that, that's really geared for women, not for men in theory. Geared for women that have a lot to do, are managing a lot of things, including all the caregiving responsibilities that women have to manage that men just generally don't have to. I have no idea why I got this book. It was just sitting in my Kindle library. So I read it and didn't realize till about page 14, I was like, oh wait, this is actually for women. Before we dive in, a couple ways to support the channel. Number one, you can become a patron at patreon.com/CurtisMcHale. Number two, you can take one of my Skillshare courses. If you're into books, research, stuff like that, there'll be a link below to my Zettelkasten course called Getting Started with Zettelkasten on Skillshare. Or you can just head over to Skillshare at curtismchale.ca/Skillshare, where you can take one of my courses. Other ways you can join me, join my Discord channel, link below, or you can join me Fridays around 1 p.m. Pacific. I should be streaming for a couple hours. That's what I'm doing right now, so you can actually ask me questions about this book if you're live. Without further ado, I will find the button to click because I don't have my Stream Deck yet. There we go. So like I said, I have no idea where I got this book from, but it is directly focused at women, specifically around helping them use their gifts, not just for other people, but for like to feed themselves, to give themselves edification, I suppose. Edification. There's a churchy word I learned. So while this isn't really aimed at me, and I actually think there's a fundamental flaw in the book overall, I think there are some interesting points to discuss, which we're going to get into. First off, Turner talks about how we have balance and equates that with everything fitting neatly into your life, which I think is just wrong. I think the truth is that really we're always out of balance in some fashion, right? So I'm a runner, I'm a cyclist, and I'm an athlete, I suppose, and I'm always out of balance, to use air quotes, in one way, right? I'm mostly riding right now, but I took a couple years off biking, mostly, like totally off some of it, to commute a little bit, and that's really about it. So you're always out of balance in some way, right? I can be a good employee, I can be a good father, I can be a good athlete, like I can only be certain things at certain times, and you always have to choose what that is. I think that's probably a better way to look at it. You're always kind of teetering around on what you're going to be focusing on at the time, but you can never be totally in balance and have all of them at the same time. That's just kind of being stagnant. Now, Turner also really dives deep into balance as she looks at how it's easy to book ourselves up with a bunch of stuff that feels interesting in the moment or is good in the moment, but ultimately isn't. When we look back at it later, we say, oh, this is just way too much, right? Especially when you look at things for your kids. Where you say, oh, my kids are in swimming and skating and ninja gym and piano lessons, and then you get to I run around every night, and this sucks. And that's tough. It's especially tough, I think, when you get to kids into their older ages as they're going into being adults in their 20s and stuff. And as David Brooks says in The Second Mountain, they go from the most controlled childhood ever to you could be anything you want. And they've had very little opportunity to kind of graduate through responsibility. They've just kind of are told, hey, you can be anything and make all your decisions and you're just be free after having the most controlled childhood that kids have kind of ever had. She also talks about a uniquely female problem. Of working to please other people to the point of emptiness and allowing your guilt seeing other people kind of influence how you conduct yourself. I even see that with my wife in some ways when she's like, oh, the house is so messy. And I'm like, literally everyone's house looks like this. Like we've got 3 kids are messy. That's just it. And she has often felt bad when we were entertaining, which we're not now. Hey, my house isn't clean enough for people to come over. And I'm like when we go to our friends' houses, they have the same discussion beforehand and their house looks exactly the same. So, yeah. Another big thing I really liked from her was the no yell rule, was that if I am going to take my kids to something and I got to yell to get them there, then we're just going to quit because they clearly don't care about it enough to make it a priority for them. So I really like that, and I have instituted that, and we have missed skating once because I was not yelling at my oldest daughter to get to skating on time, and we just didn't get there. And that was totally fine with me. She is now ready. Now, one of the big fatal flaw I find here is that the assumed premise that a woman can only find fringe hours like on the margin for herself, for anything that kind of keeps her going or feeds her. And this showed in Turner's example of saying, I read magazines while I blow my hair, which, I guess, okay. But that's the only time she can get to read her magazines because she's so booked up everywhere else that that's it, right? And she does talk about having a discussion with her husband about doing more, but I think that there's a big key missed here that, like, men need to step up, and men, if you're watching this, you need to step up, and you need to do more in your house, because even if you think you're doing a lot, you're probably not quite doing as much as your wife. Like, it's not a 50-50 split at all. It's almost never a 50-50 split. And Turner just kind of skips that whole thing. She doesn't say anything about that, really. She just kind of assumes that women are only ever going to get fringe hours because they have so many other things to do, and there's just nothing you can do about it. Big fatal flaw. So the question is, should you read this book, The Fringe Hours by Jessica Turner? And I'm going to say, nah, it's not a terrible book, but especially if you're a guy, this is probably not the one for you. If you're a woman looking for productivity, then I also say, because it's the assumption that there's these fringe hours, if that's all you're ever going to get, it's just a weaker book in that respect. If you're looking at productivity, I'd recommend some other books like Atomic Habits, Deep Work, or Digital Minimalism. Those are all three of them are really good books on productivity from different angles. And if you're looking at the aspect of getting men to do more, really getting men to do more, or their fair share, then Raising Empowered Daughters is a good one, taken from a man's perspective and basically calls men to the floor. Or All In is another good one, talking about how men are, in many ways, by society, limited in what they're allowed to do, because women pay a price for childcare, but then men pay a price too. As if you take too many days off from when you have a new baby, your career, suddenly you're a terrible career person. That's it. If you liked the video, thumbs up below. If you loved it, subscribe, hit the bell. YouTube will let you know what happened. Other ways to support the channel: become a patron at patreon.com/CurtisMcHale, or you can also take one of my Skillshare courses. If you go to curtismchale.ca/Skillshare, that'll take you there. You can search Curtis McHale, find one of my courses, or you can see links below. There's also a Discord channel where we chat a very tiny bit, and because that's, takes a lot of people to get there. And you can also join me most Fridays at around 1 p.m. Pacific. I'll be streaming, but you should notice it. That's it. Thanks for watching.